Billionaire investor Ray Dalio and founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, just said a few days ago that he thinks the biggest risk in the economy is a civil war, and he sees a 1 in 3 chance of that happening, especially with the elections coming up this year and the divisions in the country. Ray Dalio is an economic historian. He wrote a book, Principles of the Changing World Order, a few years ago, and he thinks that it's appropriate to perhaps invest money outside the U.S., maybe India and Singapore. First of all, I don't necessarily think that's true. Although we're divided in this country, I think that will prevail. Maybe I'm a little bit optimistic, but I think instead of investing outside of this country, I think Bitcoin is the perfect thing to allocate money on right now. It's a neutral currency. And there's so much institutional adoption now. There's so much growth, the network effects with Metcalfe's law, and the consolidation that Bitcoin has had over the last few months around that 63,000 level, right after the Bitcoin spot ETFs were recently approved back in January. And now with the Bitcoin halving in hindsight, historically, the next few weeks to months should be very good for Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin's the perfect neutral asset. It's pretty much hedge yourself against any country's risk around the world. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about what Stanley Druckenmiller said, another billionaire investor. He pretty much said that Argentina's economy, he really sees some benefits there with Argentinian President Javier Milei pretty much bringing inflation down to less than 10% month over month for the fourth straight month, and a budget surplus for 4 straight months, and the first quarterly budget surplus since 2008. This is huge for Argentina. Yes, there's more of room to go for Argentina, but pretty much what Javier Milei really wanted to do was cut a lot of spending. And when you're in a high inflationary environment, you have to have fiscal discipline and cut some spending and cut some programs. And perhaps other countries around the world should take note of the successes Javier Milei had or has for Argentina in terms of bringing down inflation. And he was seen as a little bit of a radical coming in, but in terms of gutting all these programs. But the fact that Argentina's inflation has slowed for 4 straight months and is also having a budget surplus for 4 straight months is something that we might have to keep an open mind with, or at least study what's going on there. Perhaps we should cut some spending in our own country, or look at some programs to cut in order to help the Federal Reserve in their monetary policy, because right now the Fed's trying to have a restrictive monetary policy to keep inflation at bay. And with the with the government in fiscal policy spending so much in the U.S., that kind of counteracts the Federal Reserve's monetary policy. So it kind of cancels it out. So if the federal government decreases their fiscal spending a little bit, that would help the Federal Reserve do their job better in terms of bringing down inflation. So yes, we should take a look at Argentina's policies in terms of perhaps making some spending cuts in order to help the Federal Reserve do its job to bring down inflation. And this is the very reason why I like Bitcoin.